This is the Editor's Half Hour. Step into the life of an editor for 30 minutes as we discuss the craft of editing, industry trends, and editorial resources. Your host is co-founder and CEO of Peak Publishing Inc., Nadia Jaja Pupa. She is experienced in all facets of the publishing industry, from editing to design, and works with corporate clients and self-published authors. Nadia and her guests are about to share powerful insights and stories on what it takes to be an editor. And this is your host, Nadia Jaja Pupa.
Listeners to the Editor's Not Half Hour. Today is our special recording of our, what did I call it? The STET Special, the Hour Special podcast episode with the wonderful Erin Brenner. We're going to discuss the latest book published by the University of Chicago Press called The Chicago Guide for Freelance Editors, written by Erin Brenner. And that's who I have today. So welcome, Erin. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do, what you're doing with your company, and all the exciting things going on in your life.
Thank you, Nadia. My company is Right Touch Editing, and that takes up most of my time. I've been working with that since 2005 when I started freelancing part-time. And it's gone through different iterations depending on what I needed in life. And right now, I'm operating it as an agency. So I have anywhere from 8 to 10 freelance editors and writers who work for me on and off basis. I wouldn't say it's, nobody's making a full-time living that way from me. But I try and keep folks busy. We work with mostly small and mid-sized businesses, giving them editing and writing support. Whether that's, hey, I have this press release, can you get this done in the next few hours? So we're going to redo all our guides, and we need all the help. Those are my favorite projects.
Me too. You know what, Erin? I got to tell you, I have so much in common with you than you realize. As I was reading your book, there's so many little things that you mentioned, about what you went through to, start your company. Mm-hmm. You talked about using things like Mint to analyze your personal and business expenses. And I do the same with my husband. And your husband's, you mentioned him in the book. His name is Bill. Yes. My husband's name is Phil. So I feel like, as I'm reading, I was telling my husband, I'm like, this is so funny. I feel like we're almost the same in a parallel universe. Like the things that you mentioned and what you've gone through and how your company has grown. I'm going through that now. And so I do function very similarly like an agency, but more on the lines of a consultancy, if that makes sense. But yes, I have taken on those guidebooks, like you said, and it's a lot of work, right? There's a lot of things to consider with those types of projects. So that's why this is an hour long. We're going to get into so much today. And I am like just over the moon. I'm so excited because you're a celebrity to me. I cannot wait to see you in person. I can't wait to get the copy of this book signed because I'm going to see you at ACES probably.
Yes.
So that's coming up soon. Okay. So when my first impression of the book, I was like, this is amazing because the topic is about, running your own company. How do you support yourself as an editor? And when I looked at it, what really struck me was that there's stuff in there for someone like me who has a full functioning S Corp, somebody who's just starting out. So there's something for everyone in this book, which is amazing. I love that. So let's start from the beginning. So Right Touch Editing, that's your company. I want to talk about the early stages because I think a lot of listeners are probably dying to hear this because some may be at that stage where they're thinking about leaving the corporate world and they want to, be self-sufficient and work on their own. What was that process like? And who did you go to for advice? And did you have a lot of self-doubt? What did you struggle with when you're like, should I make that big move? What was that like?
It was a long process for me. At that point, early 2000s, I had a job I loved, just copy editing, how-to articles on what was then called online marketing. It's expanded so much.
I
But
know.
I had our first child, and they closed my local office. And so I started working from home. And we then had a second child. And working from home gave me a lot of flexibility. And I had a great boss who was like, meet your deadlines and go take care of your kids.
Yeah, I
So
love that.
as the years went on, my job really stayed the same, right? I was looking for ways to grow and do new things. And there really wasn't a path for me at my company. It's just not how it was structured. But we change vice presidents, every year or two. And so there was
Yep.
always this, we're going to do something different. We're going to redo this. And there might be opportunities for you. So I stuck around for a long time.
Yeah.
But I really felt stuck in a box. I felt
Yeah.
bored. But how could I give up working from home while I had two preschoolers who could have as much of my attention as they wanted? And that was really important to Bill and me, for us not to just put kids in daycare all the time. We wanted to be able to be with them more often. You know, people have to do what they have to do to raise their families. And I don't judge anyone.
Right.
But I had this opportunity. So how could
I know. That's wonderful.
it was amazing. And so how could I give
Yeah.
that up? Right?
I know. Yes, I know. I was in the same situation.
And I couldn't find work that would allow me to do that. I live about 35 miles outside of Boston. So trucking into Boston every day, that's 3 hours on the road easy. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I started to have this idea about, well, maybe I can freelance. And I tested it a lot. I launched in 2005, where I was just doing it part-time in between parenting and doing my full-time job. And I liked it. But, it's, who are my clients? What can I do? Working through all those kinds of things, and trying to save money while you're raising kids, which isn't easy, so that I could
Not
eventually
easy.
quit. So it took me about 4 years to finally make the leap into full-time, to say I'm quitting my job and I'm going to make a go of this. I had a few clients. We had saved a bit of money, and we got a loan from my in-laws. I really could not have done it without them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was just so amazing to know I could devote myself to my business. If I didn't have client work, I was working on marketing, social media, and getting out to in-person events whenever I could. Back then, social media breakfast was a big deal.
Oh, okay.
People used to come together and go, what is this social media thing? How do I use this? It was a great place to meet
That's
people.
hilarious. Yeah.
Right? The changes that happen.
Yeah.
So
around that time, I was going to add, that's when blogging was huge. Blogging was like in the early 2000s. That was like the new wave of, it was threatening, the career for journalists at the time. Like, what are going to happen to journalists? People are relying on blogs for information. So yeah, it's bringing me back to those days.
I remember as an editor, I remember the shift from calling it a web blog to a blog because people would know what it was now.
What about the page master or webmaster or whatever, those old terms that we don't use anymore?
Webmaster.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
So when I did decide to go full time, I knew I wanted to write a blog. I had a little newsletter I did with all our writers for my company, and I enjoyed that. And so I had also done a little in-house training on how to edit your own work. So
very cool.
I had some ideas for what I could write about. And so I did. I started blogging in 2010. And
prime time. That was the prime time to get going. Yeah.
It really was. There wasn't as much competition out there. Not as many folks writing about these things. And I continued to write that for several years. And I've been writing ever since. It's taken different forms. But I really put my whole heart into launching my business once I decided to go full time, because I could feel the pressure of, I have to contribute to our family. I've been given this opportunity, the loan from my in-laws. I have to make the most of it. And I would not advise doing it that way if you don't have to.
I love that you shared all of this information, because it's so similar. I mean, the same situation, and I have two kids. You have two kids. My kids right now one is not in preschool, but the other one is. But it's a little, it's a high stakes situation when you're raising kids. It's not just you that you're supporting, or your spouse. It's you have a family. And so that's where the stakes are a little higher. And I'm more likely to put myself out there and to see what opportunities exist. And my story was so similar. I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that at the company I was at, I didn't see that there was room to grow or, expand my skills very much. And it was the same copy I was editing over and over, same content, I should say, not copy, same content. And it was the same. It's like the same story, Erin. You have no idea. It's like, it blows my mind. But yes, it was not a situation where it wasn't as exactly like yours, but it wasn't a situation where I made that jump. It is scary to make that jump. You have steady income, you have a family you're raising or a family you're supporting. So making that jump is scary. So for my situation, it was actually a layoff, but I knew it was going to happen. I just stuck around. And so it was the same story, where it was about 4 years into my business where I had maybe one or two clients, and then it grew once the layoff happened. But it was not a shock. It was not like the rug got pulled out from under me. I was just waiting for that day, which sounds horrible, but it gave me that time to plan. And it was about, you're right, it was like a 3 to 4 year span of time where I could really think about, what is my brand? What do I want to do? So that's really cool that you are sharing that aspect of starting a business, because it's not, you can't just wave a magic wand and say, boom, I have a company and I have 10, 20 clients. It just doesn't work that way. So hearing the reality is so important. So tell us about who are your Eddie buddies? Who were those people that you kind of could lean on a little, or did you have, editors that you knew that you could ask questions to, advice, like what kind of merchant account system do I use, or payroll, or whatever it is that you're using? There's a lot of weird things that come up that you don't realize when running a business.
I didn't know a lot of people when I quit my job. I was the only editor on staff. And again, this was the early 2000s. Facebook was new. Not a lot of groups were on there. I didn't know about them. I was a regular reader of copy editing newsletter, which I went on to work for and then own and operate with Laura Poole. But, that is how I knew about the editing universe. It wasn't really as connected the way it was. I mean, Twitter was new. Facebook was new.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. Yeah.
I think I was on the Copy Editing L list, which is still in existence. It's an email list run by Catherine O'More Clough these days. And I was a member of EFA in the beginning, so I was on that mailing list. So I, started to be able to read what other editors were doing. And somewhere in those groups, or maybe through an audio webinar before we did video, I got to really know who Catherine O'More Clough was.
Okay.
And she had said somewhere that she would mentor somebody. Very specific ground rules, right? Here's what she would do. And what she asked in return is that you someday go and mentor somebody else. So she was my first mentor.
That's so cool.
It was great. She's such a kind person, and so knowledgeable. And she helped me with those really early questions.
That's great.
Once I got involved with copy editing newsletter and the whole site, I started to really get to know other editors, but it immediately put me in the position of being the authority, even if I didn't feel like the authority, because I was the editor-in-chief and I was writing articles and
Yeah.
hiring other editors and still making it up as I go along.
Right. There's so much. It's like the editorial or the editing community, or I guess I should say the industry itself, it is relatively unregulated in a sense that, we can, and I want to get into this too about getting certificates and taking trainings and courses, but you can't just say, I have a bachelor's degree in editing. That doesn't exist.
Right.
And so there's, it's an interesting industry and I love it. I mean, obviously,
Right.
but, it is. And that's where you kind of have to meet other editors to learn at this point. I feel so strongly about that.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And that's where we came from, right? It used to be you worked in-house, you learned from whoever the senior editor was on staff.
Yes.
And as that shifted away, we started to need education elsewhere. I got my training from some one-day workshops from a private educational company that no longer exists. As it does, it's shifted its model and it doesn't do that kind of training anymore. And I learned from books.
Yep. There's books.
And it wasn't until my second professional job where I got hired as a copy editor. And right after I got hired, we had a new managing editor, and she went to town on all of us, on the whole team, on making sure we all had enough training. And she read behind everybody for months. And that takes an enormous amount of time.
Yeah.
But I learned so much from her. And I learned how to help other editors at the same time, how to evaluate, what's a good edit, what's not, and not to just think, it's not the way I would do it, so it must be wrong. Well, that's not how it works.
Yes, that's not how it works. Yes. Go ahead.
She just gave me so much, and it was such a great learning experience. It's the learning experience I want to give to anybody I do help out.
Yeah. And so oh my gosh, now my mind is going in a million different directions because what you just touched on is a very important topic. Do you have at Right Touch Editing an editing test if you do want to bring in additional contractors? Like can you share? I know it might be tough, but can you share an example of something that would be what you would consider to be like a good edit or something that's a little bit of a red flag? Like they might not know, the nuances behind how to edit a blog or marketing material or things like that.
So I do have an editing test
Awesome.
that I have made. I probably have a couple different versions, but it's usually based on client work that I have then made into a dog's breakfast.
That's so cool.
The thing I have found with testing is, so if you want to make sure somebody knows how to fix anything, commas, capitalizations, subject verb agreement, anything, you can't have it in there just once. We are never going to catch everything. A 95% correction rate is considered excellent, which means we're always leaving something behind. So if you don't have multiple instances in a test and you don't allow for that 95%, you don't allow them to miss something, you don't know that they can really control the edit. So I'm looking at, if the directions say, it has to have the serial comma, I'm looking to see most often did they catch when there's a missing serial comma.
Yeah.
You don't have to catch every one. You don't have to fix everything, but can you catch most of them?
Yeah.
And a big thing I'm looking for is how well you can follow directions. Because the clients
good one.
care,
Yes.
So if
they have their own in-house style guide, they have their own in-house style sheet or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. There are rules that need to be followed when it's a major corporation. You can't just decide if something gets a lowercase if it's their term, right?
Exactly. If there's that quirky rule, we have to follow it. I have one client that does not allow the word via, V-I-A, in copy. I don't know why. It seems very odd to me.
That is odd.
But that's what we look for.
Delete all vias.
Perfected is very good at finding them for us.
Yes.
But if I've set it in the directions, and you're taking a test, I expect that you're taking your time, you're reviewing it a lot. I expect you to go and search and make sure via is not showing up.
That's wonderful. And this is great advice for an editor who has maybe an established business like mine. We're cranking out a lot of stuff, but putting together a solid editing test is a great way to vet editors. So if you're thinking about, you, meaning the listeners, thinking about bringing in another person, we've been talking about tag teaming. That's been a conversation topic lately. Tag teaming projects so that you could take on more work is a way to grow your business. So this is a great way to do that by, vetting trusted editors in the industry that, maybe it's highly scientific material, medical. I don't feel qualified at all to take on, medical editing projects, but there are medical editors out there. Maybe I could proofread it, but I don't know if I could do a copy edit of it. So I would maybe not want to say bye to the client. I would say, okay, let's tag team this. And I would find the right editor or something similar in a situation where I might not be the best copy editor or the best person to take on a specific project, but I can certainly help out in some way, shape, or form. And so I think that's another thing that, editors can consider if a potential opportunity comes your way. That's a way to get in and to grow, bring in more profit for your business, I guess is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And so is that how it happened for you? Did you get a lot of opportunities your way and then you didn't necessarily have to say no because it didn't, you couldn't be the one to do it, but you have people that you can oversee, almost like you were in a corporate office. You were the manager, project manager and editor, right?
That's absolutely it. I hated saying no. And if something was within the realm of what I wanted us to be doing, it meant bringing in subcontractors. And, I've run as an agency now, but it's not the first time I've done it. I tried it in, I think it was about 2012, 2013. And I was teaching for, in a copy editing program at University of California, San Diego. And so I was meeting new students. And as they graduated from the program, they were a really good editor, or they seemed to really get the kind of editing I do. And would you be interested in working with me? And it went okay. I had a couple editors who worked for me, but it just didn't work out at that point.
I see.
Some of it was I didn't have enough tools, or I didn't know what the right tools were to run the business, which is really important, right? It was very difficult to line somebody up to do an edit. It just took so much time.
Yeah.
And part of it was other things came up, and I said, well, I'm going to go do this instead.
Right.
Put that on the back burner. Maybe I'll come back to it someday. That's the beauty of a freelance business, though, right? You can say, my needs have changed, my wants have changed. I'm going to change my business to suit my life, to where I'm at.
Yeah. And I love that you talk about that at length in the book, which is it should be very reassuring for anybody reading it that, and that's why that was a big takeaway for me, was that it's not that you need to, this is my business and it's done. I mean, you can evolve over time. Maybe there's an opportunity that presents itself in an industry that you know nothing about, but it's a wonderful opportunity that you're very interested in. And then it kind of just all of a sudden you're interested in a new thing, and you can take on more of those things, or a new corporation that comes along, and you're like, whoa, okay, let me see what goes. Let's see how this goes. And then it turns into, this is now I want this to be my new thing. And then you can kind of push it that direction. That's the beauty of running your own business. There's nobody that's going to tap on your shoulder and say, you can't do this. That's the nice thing, is you're in control. You're in charge. So I really want to try to focus on a few main topics. And we can chat for hours on this. But a big one, I want to dive into setting rates.
Okay.
there's so much to consider. And you put it, you really did a wonderful job. I have to hand it to you in explaining that process, because it's not a black and white process. Some editors are, they want to keep it really simple and they focus on word count. But in the book, you say things like, well, that can change. The word count can change. And then you don't want to surprise the client with a rate that jumps too high. That would be unfortunate on both sides, because it's like, oh, it's awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's, I don't want to ramble on and on, but there's a lot of nuance to setting rates.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hard plugging this book. This is all based on Erin's book. So you gotta buy this book, because she really does a great job of explaining it. But let's just talk about, on a high level on this, a higher level on what it takes to do this, Erin. And then also, what you think about things like EFA, should we follow those rates? Should you use it as a baseline? Yeah, you can take this and run with this. You can really answer this question in so many ways, but I guess, what is first and foremost how you approach it, and we can go from there.
Okay. So with pricing, I look at it as an equation, right? On the one side is your business. So what you need, what your value is, what you want to earn. On the other side is the client, their budget, their desire to save money, how they value editing, right? And you have to make them balanced. In the book, I encourage people to start with their personal budget, right?
Okay.
No matter if you're doing freelancing as supplemental income or full-time income, if you're doing it for money, and we all are, how much do you need? What's that baseline that you have to reach, and how are you going to get there? And I go through, how to figure that out. What's your budget look like? How do you if you've got a corporate salary, how do you replace that? Because it is not one-to-one. It gets so complicated so fast. I'm working on a companion workbook for the book.
Oh, nice.
Because I really like to give people tools to do what they talk about. If you're listening, well, all right, let's, how do you do this? Let's give you some tools to do it. And just going through how to take your salary and the benefits and turn that into, say, an hourly rate of what you need to earn. It's a lot. And it can be really hard to replace that. There's so many things to consider. But I think in hourly rates, because a lot of my clients like to be billed hourly. But if you're doing per word, per page, a set of page, it's going to come down to the same thing. You're still selling your hours. You have to spend time to do this. So I like to get to an hourly rate, because then I can say, I need to work 10 hours. I need to work 30 hours to make my living. And then it doesn't matter how I charge my clients. But I like to get to that point of, okay, how much do I need to earn? What does that come down to for an hourly rate? And when I get there, is that valuable, right? Does that take into account my expertise? Does it take into account the client's desire to work with me? Their need, will they be willing to pay more if I'm faster, or because they're working with this kind of expert, or whatever it is for them that makes them more willing to pay for something? Does my rate include that? It's really just kind of running some numbers. You're running some numbers, but you're still going with the gut check.
Right. Okay, so this is getting me excited, because I've been in situations where, I've taken into account everything you mentioned, my experience, my expertise, the actual project itself. And then, what I would consider to be, standard, kind of like, so it's not so far off the scale where it's like, what the hell is she thinking? But then I've taken into account the actual client itself. Is it
Mhm.
a self-published author, or is it a corporate client who I know can probably afford these rates? So I don't chart, with a self-published author, that's a different scenario. But with a corporation, I've had, and I'm still new at this, but I have had to negotiate. And it was
Mhm.
when I first had to do it, it was very uncomfortable. And I was squirming, like waiting to hear back. I've submitted a professional, formal proposal, and I'm
Mhm.
waiting. It has to get reviewed, and it has to be approved. Um, and so getting that pushback is scary. So I've been through it a few times. I'm not that, seasoned when it comes to negotiations. But can you share some stories where maybe the client didn't push back and you were like, yes, and maybe it was a high rate and you were excited, or the opposite where the client was like, that's a little too high. And then you're just like, how did you deal with that, I guess, emotionally? Were you feeling like awkward? Some people are just like, oh, fine. But for me, I guess my personality, I would be like, oh, I feel so awkward. And I let it
It's
ruin my day.
it's definitely hard.
Yeah.
Negotiating is still hard for me. It's great when somebody takes the fee and says, "Yeah, that works for me," and I think I should have
Could have gone
charged more.
higher. Could have charged more.
Would have charged more. Doggone it.
Because there was no pushback. So now you probably want the pushback because then you know what their cap is. You want to be at the
Right.
top of what they're willing to spend,
And you're right.
Hard to figure that out.
Corporation fees are going to be different from self-publishing fees. But even in corporations, you start going, well, is it a small business?
Right.
How much of a budget do they have? How much do they value what they want? Is it really important to them that this is done right? Because some companies don't. They just want good enough. They're going to pay good enough.
Good enough prices. Yep. You're exactly right.
So when they come back and they say, well, this is too high, I think for me, the next step is, okay, so what is your budget? And let's talk about what I'm willing to do for that budget.
I love this.
Of course, there's always times where you're like, no, Wolf is at the door. I have bills to pay. I'm taking this anyway. I have done that because you have to. That's the real world.
Right.
I worked for one client. They weren't terrible, but it was a lot of work. It was fast paced and it didn't pay well. And they were located overseas and they were wiring me money. It came through 2 banks. I got hit with 2 charges. And so by the time I got any money,
it wasn't worth it. You're like, this is not worth my time.
But I needed projects. So
yeah.
I took it. And then my goal in life was, how can I replace them? So, there are definitely times like that. But when I can afford to negotiate, it's okay. What can you afford? Here's what I'm willing to do for that. And it's negotiating the work, not my value. Yeah. And if they say, well, no, I still can't afford that, or I really want this, and okay, well, I'm not the editor for you. And maybe I'm recommending people I think would be able to do it for that fee, or I'm recommending directories where they can find folks who can do that fee. But I'll confess that if I think the fee is really subpar, then I'm not going to recommend anybody. I'm going to say, I'm just going to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you out. Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah. Good for you. And that's your way of kind of looking out for other editors too. Yeah. You're not going to be like, hey guys, I got something for you. And they're like, thanks a lot, Erin. I'm making like 2 cents here. Right? But yeah, you're right. You're right. That happens. And you want to pass on projects to other editors where you know that those editors will be valued for what they do. And it just wasn't the right one for you. And that does happen. So there's so many lessons learned and sometimes you just don't know until you put yourself out there. And I think it's that fear of getting over that feeling of, it's very nerve-wracking. And I love that you shared that it's still challenging. I mean, I don't think it's ever one of those things there. It's like, oh, I raised my rates this year. And, it's still nerve-wracking when you send out those proposals and you're waiting to hear back because they have to think about it if it will work for them. And so, setting rates, negotiating rates. I mean, there's a lot to consider. But what about, a deeper conversation on maybe supplementing your skills? I know that I have, and I want to be very clear that, I can support myself with my business because I've done this, but other editors might not want to do this. They might just want to focus on one, not just editing, but one level of editing.
Mhm.
Maybe they just want to proofread, or maybe they just want to copy edit and they don't want to go off of that path. Do you
Mhm.
think that that is still, I mean, and considering a lot of other things, I'm talking, the future of what editing is going to be, what you perceive it to be, do you feel like that is still a viable option for editors if they wanted to, just be that specific skill set,
Mhm.
or I should say provide just that specific skill set? Or would you encourage them to expand into maybe graphic design, page layout, or other adjacent areas or territories in publishing? That's what I've done is
Mhm.
graphic design. And once I brought that in, it's like, holy moly, now I can really support myself, not
Right.
just, even if it was dev editing, which we know is the highest level and you can charge the highest rate for that, all the way down to proofreading. But what are your thoughts? What do you think? Would you say stay in your lane, and I'm not saying, oh, what's right or wrong, but, would you, or have you considered adding a new service line to your business in that way?
I think it's really hard to answer that, right? Because everyone's got their own
Yeah.
budget, their own needs.
Right.
Do I know people who stay in their lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do what I think of as business light, right? They
Mm-hmm.
work for publishers, they work for other agencies. They don't have to do a lot of marketing because they don't like it. And they find a way to make a living.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even adding in Fiverr or anything where someone else is giving them the work, feeding them the work.
Mm-hmm.
It can work. I know editors who do this and
I
make
love
their
hearing
living.
this. I love hearing
Uh,
that.
Is it right for everybody? Right?
Right.
It's hard to say. You can go and try it. And that's really the thing. Because it's so individual, you have to try things. So
Yeah.
try a kind of business light where you're working for other suppliers of work. If what you really like is editing and proofreading and you don't mind doing 6, 7, 8 hours a day on it and you're really
Mm-hmm.
minimizing how much business you're doing, that's totally okay. I've known a lot of editors who were freelancing because they couldn't get a full-time job editing. That's all they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're struggling, absolutely take on some more skills. Find another way to expand your business. It like you say, it could be expanding your skills into design, indexing, related things, social media.
Mm-hmm.
Are you good at managing that? Project management. Lots of ways. Look at your clients. What other services could they use that you could provide for them?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Either because you already have the skills or you're willing to go get them.
Mm-hmm.
Invest in yourself, absolutely. Or can you do something like expand your business where you're partnering with other people, right?
Yeah. It's
The
a whole
agency,
mix of all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, agency is one way, but I know of other groups who work together on bigger projects. And so they're cross promoting. They've got their own businesses, but they've also got a shared business, and they're just able to take on different types of projects. One group, they're in different time zones across Europe and the Americas. So when it's really tight on time, somebody might be starting in Europe and we're moving that project along.
I know. Yes, I've been in those situations where we passed things off to one another and the time difference lent itself to that in a positive way. Yes. Right. And it's really great. And you actually did mention this in the book, was that, you can, and it goes back to setting rates, because if a client is asking for you to take on a skill that you are not lying to, like, I'm not saying I'm an expert in this, I'm willing to give it a try, then you can adjust the rate accordingly. So it did happen to me where a client was in a really tough situation. Long story short, they needed to get a PDF ADA compliant, and the company that they were working with neglected things. I said, hey, I'm willing to give it a shot because I'm quite frankly interested in how to tag, alternate tagging of things. I'm interested in learning this. I think it's the future. I think we're going to need to learn how to get things ADA compliant or 508 compliance, I think is what it is. And the federal government is required, it's by law. I mean, websites need to have this. And so here I am cracking open a PDF and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I don't know. And you have to run it through a series of tests. And again, this is not editing. This has nothing to do with editing, but it's adjacent to I worked on the guide that needed to be ADA compliant. And, there I was putting myself out there offering, they asked and I said, let me give it a shot. And, they said, we'll charge, and I lowered my rate a little bit just because I was a newbie at this thing. And I was successful in getting it done and it passed the tests and it was out there. And I was really proud of myself. I haven't done it in a while, but again, that's the exact instance you're saying where if an opportunity presents itself, I could have said no. And it's my, I'm in charge and, I'm the business owner. And I was like, well, let me give it a shot. I'm interested.
Yeah.
This is a future need, I think, in our industry. So that's another avenue that, editors who are listening, think about, what you can do adjacent to what the editorial work is that's required for jobs. So this is kind of getting into marketing too. So, in your situation, did you feel that you had a lot of success through word of mouth? Because that's a lot of what I deal with is a lot of word of mouth. Or do you get people who find you because of your blogs and then they fill out a contact form from your website? How do you get business? Probably from everywhere, but
I do. I get from everywhere. I want to say about 30 to 40% of my business is referrals, either from other clients or other editors.
Love it.
And it's fabulous. I'm so very appreciative of anyone who remembers me and says, Erin can do the job for you.
Great.
And I'm always returning the favor. If something crosses my desk and I can't take it on, I'm going to refer it as long as it's a good
referral.
As long as the red flags aren't waving.
Right. You will send that out. I love it.
I will send it out. But I have gotten jobs just because I write a blog and it's out there. I have had clients say, oh, I Googled editor and you're or they Googled this or that. And my site came up and, oh my gosh, all the stuff on your site and you must know a lot and you must do a lot. And it's just the volume impresses people. And I go, okay, that's what it's supposed to do.
You know your stuff, Erin. So does that feel, that must be a motivating factor to keep you going with the blog, right? Because you have so much out there and then they see it and you're just like, oh, my blog is working. Oh, that's hard work, right? Yeah.
I'm now watching my LinkedIn copy do better. I started doing a long post like once a week and I do a newsletter once a month and I'm just floored by the number of people who see it.
I love it.
Keep doing that.
This is so, you have no idea how inspiring this is. I mean, listeners are going to hear this and be like, I got to get on that newsletter. I've been wanting to do one. I just don't know how to start. This is your sign. If you're listening, do it. Do a blog if you want to do a blog. And Erin is exactly right. It really does. It resonates when somebody sees your website. It will resonate with them that your stuff and you do, right? Yes. It's one of those things. It's very intimidating. I still have not started a blog. I thought about it, but now I'm actually the blog manager for the San Diego Professional Editors Network. I was a past president and I'm managing that blog. So you may have seen the blog I wrote about Erin's book. It was a very brief review, but it was a overview of how the book is organized into certain parts. And we're almost through getting through all the stuff. I mean, you got to read this book because there's a lot of valuable stuff in there that Erin, she explained, and you have great examples of things. But the branding, messaging, you have some great questions. It's almost like a workbook. So I can't wait to see this workbook you're working on to accompany this. I mean, it blows my mind, but it's about positioning your brand. So let's talk about that for a little bit because you have a lot to say about that. What advice, can you share? And this goes out to anybody who is a seasoned, established company, seasoned professional, or someone who's wanting to take that jump and they maybe have 20 years already experience in editing. What is, I guess, the first step and maybe the easiest to start promoting their business? Would you say it's social media? Would you say jump on starting a blog? What do you think is a good first step to get going?
A blog is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a commitment.
Okay.
So, and people will start blogs and they blog for a little bit and then they stop. And I think that's totally fine because that content can sit on your website. But it takes a lot of energy and it may not be the place to start.
Okay.
If you have an idea of what your brand is, I think you're looking at, I really like to start at the basics. So what is your branding? Well, what are some terms you want people to think of when they think of your brand? How do you translate that into fonts and colors and images, and how you communicate? Because then it doesn't matter where you're communicating, you're starting to build your brand.
I see.
Social media is probably a good place to start because they're short messages. Most of them are short-lived. So if you're off to a bumpy start, which we all start that way.
Yes. I love that you said that. Yes.
We all start bumpy and it gets bumpy in the middle.
It does. Yes.
Nobody's remembering every post you ever did.
Yeah.
And if you decide, oh my gosh, I can't let that post remain, and you take it down, then you take it down. It's okay. Somebody says, you took it down. Yes, I took it down. It wasn't appropriate or it didn't fit what I wanted to say. So I took it down.
Yeah. See, this is so great to hear. And we're editors. We're not salesy. It's we cringe. Hire me. Like we all hate this. So I love that the blog is a great way to position. You're still saying, hey, I'm over here, but you're not saying hire me, I'm available. You're saying, hey, I've got information about what I do. Do you want to read about whether or not the comma belongs somewhere in those phrases, not only but, you could write a whole blog post about that, right?
Oh yeah.
And for years, by the way, I was making that error. I included not only is this blah blah blah, but I was putting the comma in there. I don't think that's supposed to be there, or maybe there's some rules that can come into play. But for years, I was doing the comma rule for that phrasing, and I think I stumbled upon it in the Chicago style. And I was like, crap, why am I doing this? But that happens. And then you sit there and question your whole life. Like, I can't believe I'm an editor and I've been making errors.
We all make errors though. There's always something. We're always learning or something's changed. And, oh my gosh.
There are worse things than comma errors. So there's the marketing side, the word of mouth, social media, the cringy aspect of being markety. We still have to market ourselves, and it is.
Let me say
how do you get over that?
Because we don't want to, as editor, most of us as editors are introverts, and we're used to being behind the scenes.
We're not in sales. We're not in sales.
Editing is invisible. Done right, editing is invisible. So we're not used to this. Pointing and saying, hey, hire me.
We hate that.
But here's the thing. The people we're selling to, they don't want that either. They don't like the loud salesperson.
No,
they don't want to be shouted at. They don't want to be manipulated. They don't want to feel manipulated. They want to be heard. And editors are really good at listening to our authors, at listening, really thinking about the text, thinking about the reader. It's about somebody else.
Yeah. Yes.
As long as when we're selling, that's what we're doing, is we're thinking about somebody else. We're doing it right. And this is what clients want from us.
Yes.
They want to know you understand their problem. They want to know you can solve it. Can you solve it on my budget and on time and do a good job?
This is such good advice. This is so inspiring because we all just sit there and we're like, it's like, we don't do, this is not us. It's not, editors are not that way. We absolutely cringe. We will run the other direction if it's like us, give us your elevator pitch. Like, come on. Like, sometimes I've had to do my 1-minute commercial where I talk about what I do in a room that is not full of editors, but a room full of, professionals in various industries. And I am members of other organizations where we do that. And it's a formal process. And it's, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But, and it's not even what works and what I shouldn't have said that. It's more of being comfortable presenting yourself and speaking to what you provide in your business and the services you provide. So yeah, it is one of those things. Sometimes, you don't have to go to events and speak in that way, but it could have there are possible opportunities in those situations. But I love that you said, the social media aspect of basically providing information, and clients don't want that. Who wants that? Over here, look over here, I'm hired. No one wants to be shouted at or, spoken to that way, especially in our world, I should say, with editing. It's just not that kind of thing. We're not in that industry where we have to speak over each other and shout, and it's not even competitive in that way. I personally have not experienced an editor who looks at other editors as competitors. I swear every single editor I've met, whether it's in San Diego or at other events, it is so much fun. It is like, I want to know what you work on, and I have all these questions, and it's so exciting when we meet each other. And I think that's that's honestly my honest to goodness experience when I'm finally starting to get out and meet other editors. That's what it feels like. I feel like maybe you've had a similar situation.
Oh my gosh. The first editors conference I went to was an ACES conference. And back then they were small, 300, 400 people. And you just click, right? You go, yeah. Oh my gosh, this is what I've been missing my whole life. This is what it's like to connect with people.
I love it.
Mark Allen introduced himself to me, and I told him who I was, and he's like, let's go grab coffee. And we just sat and chatted, and I felt so welcomed. Meryl Perlman came up to me, and she, asked how I was like in the conference, and really, I was having a great time. And she's like, "You are with your people. You have found them."
Yes.
Yes, it's so true. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes, they speak the same language. Everybody, and it's so great. It's your people. So I can't wait. I cannot wait for ACES. So, and I can't wait to meet you in person too, and get your signature, your autograph in the book. And I want to, buy an official copy of the book. So, will you be selling copies of the book at ACES?
I have just heard from the press that we will be. They'll have a couple of cases available. The book doesn't drop officially until April 30th.
Okay.
They will have some.
They will have some.
And I will have we're going to schedule a time for me to do some signing. But we will also have some postcards with discounts, so that if you don't get one or you don't want to get one that day, take the postcard, go buy it later.
Yeah.
If you have bought it, I printed up some book plates, and I can sign that, and you can slap it in your book.
Oh, great. I love it. I'm going to be screaming, Erin, when I see you. You'll have like a fan base of editors flocking to the table.
I won't know what to do with that.
I did that to Amy Schneider, who wrote the Chicago Guide to Fiction Editing. I did the same thing to her. My face was probably red, and I was like, "Can you sign my book?" And she was on the podcast, but it's different when you're in person. It
really is.
It's a different connection. And listeners, if you're listening, please just get your butt to San Diego. It's worth every penny. Get on a bus if you have to. Just come to ACES conference.
It's gonna be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
I am too. There is still a little bit more I wanted to talk about. I know we're getting close to the end here, but let's talk about self-care. I think that's a really, really important topic. Mm-hmm. I'm struggling with it. Some days I'm just focused on client work, and I'm focused on, housekeeping things within the company. And then all of a sudden I look at my clock and I'm like, oh, it's like midnight, my kids are in bed, and I've at least stopped to do that, to take care of my children. But then I'm back to the business. And then I'm like, I never took that shower I was supposed to take today. I know that's TMI, but it happens when you're running a company. At 2 days, I'm like, what the heck? I didn't even take a shower because I haven't left my house.
Right.
So that's like basic self-care. Then there's like things that you can do for yourself. And, what are some words of advice you could share for someone like me, like just to get my butt out of the office and go for a walk? I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, because it's a legit thing that we're struggling with now. A lot of editors can feel isolated. There's that self-doubt that happens. I don't know anything, even though you do. There's a lot that we can struggle with, and we can be stuck in our own heads sometimes.
Oh,
So let's hear what you have to say.
absolutely stuck in our heads. And
Yeah.
everything I know about self-care, I learned the hard way. I am really, really good at overwhelming my schedule.
Yeah, me too.
When I first ran the business, I didn't take a vacation for 3 years. And it was my father who said, "What are you doing? Let's take a vacation."
Oh,
and
I love it.
He organized us all. We all went camping with the kids, which,
how fun.
Grandpa just loved that with the grandchildren. But I had to hear it from outside of myself. Yeah. And it's always been a struggle. There are so many things we can struggle with. And so at this point, I would encourage you to sit quietly and see what's coming up for you. What is that thing that comes up first or most or the most strongly? Is it that self-doubt? Is it feeling really lonely, isolated? And try and plug those holes first, a little bit at a time, a little bit every day. Our kids, we drove them to and from school. Right through high school, because they went to private high school and there was no bus. So it was getting up, driving to school and coming home. And then I'm not ready to sit at my desk. I just need a nap. And so, I'm going to have to take a nap. Your body is going to force you if you don't do it. So listening, what is the most urgent need right now? Yeah. And can you feed that need? Can you do something? And can you turn it into a little habit, right? Yeah. What can you do? I have a morning routine now, but I couldn't do that when I was driving the kids to school. So it was, could I do it once I dropped them off? Could I do it when my husband got home from work? Where was that time I could carve out for my own, even if it was 5 or 10 minutes, on a regular basis? Maybe not every day, but at least a few times a week. Just
I love that.
Try and find that time in your schedule that remains kind of consistent about.
Okay. This is advice directly to me. I feel like I'm holding back tears. I needed this. I need this advice. I really do. I mean, it can get really overwhelming, and I do the same. I overwhelm my schedule all the time. I block your calendar. Okay, I block my calendar. Get help on projects. Okay, I'll get. And I'm listening to advice, right? But then I'll get a call from a client like today. Right? Case in point, I showed up for this podcast recording all frazzled, and Erin's all calm and collected, and I'm all like, because the clients will pop in and say, "Hey, I got a quick call," and a quick call, it turns into a little bit more, it's never that way. And so I think maintaining that control, you want to impress your clients, you want to do a good job. We all feel the same. I think all editors across all across the board, we feel that same way for our clients, and we want to do a good job. We want to show up and we want to feel like we're available when they want us to be available, but that's also not fair to us. And so I really hear everything you're saying. And that is so, so great to focus on myself a little bit and think about some things that I need to fill that are not being filled right now. So I just love this.
I get it. The overwhelm I would feel when my kids were growing.
Yes.
And I'm not outing him, but my younger son is on the spectrum. He has ADHD, so he needed more hands-on help.
I see.
I cut my business back for years so that he got home from school, I could sit next to him.
I love that.
As he did his homework. He might not have needed me to coach him, but he needed somebody there. He needed to be redirected, whatever it was. Yeah. I'm not working on client work. I can't focus on it. I got to focus on him. And
I love this.
For me, it was worth the sacrifice. always that balance of what you need to do to get through in life. But if you can find a way to do it, it's so worthwhile.
It is so worthwhile. And I'm so glad we ended on this note, because that's the beauty of running your own business. Yes, there's all of these things that we need to consider. And yes, it can be cringy. And yes, it can be scary. But like you said, you were there for your kid. Like that, like you can't, that's not something you can replace. Like you cannot be replaced. And so being there for your kid because they need you is probably what makes you feel so satisfied in the fact that you took on all of that, the burden, because it can be considered a burden of running a business. Yeah, it's a lot, but worth it, right?
Absolutely worth it. It really was. I'm very grateful for the career I have because I could live my life the way I wanted to.
Love it. So well said, Erin. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for this time today. I think you shared so many inspiring things for our listeners. And again, look for Erin, go to ACES, make it happen, find her and buy a copy of this book. You will not regret it. It is one of those books that will be a go-to resource guide for running your business. Thank you again, Erin, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, listeners, I have some exciting news to share. I have officially launched the affirmation cards for editors. Some of you may have heard about them. You've probably seen them on my Instagram page. I've talked about it on previous podcast episodes, but now they are officially here, and I am so excited to share them with you. I am holding up the box right now for the video version of the podcast. For the audio version, I'll explain to you what they look like. It's a little box, blue and green gradients with some editorial marks and some gold foil stamp on the cover. And it's just so beautiful. And it's designed by Caitlin on the Peak Publishing team. It's got a magnetic closure and it's full of wonderful affirmations. Some background about how I made these and how I was inspired to do this was a few years ago, a friend was using affirmation cards for her life, her lifestyle. And I thought, I want to get some. But then I thought, well, I really want to get some for editors. Let me see if they exist. And lo and behold, they do not exist. And then I sparked an idea to actually create them. So these are officially the first ever affirmation cards for editors. I've set aside 3 affirmations that I'd like to read to you. And hopefully they inspire you and ignite a sense of positivity in your life. The first one says, I am a skilled and meticulous copy editor. You need to tell yourself this, remind yourself that you are skilled. You are meticulous in the way that you edit. Another one I have is just also my second favorite is I am committed to delivering polished manuscripts. That's our job. You're committed to this. This is what you do. It gives me that motivation as I'm editing. Last one here is my attention to detail is unmatched. Holding it up now so you can see it. These cards are meant to sit in a little wood stand that I'm holding up to show so that you can look at them every day. You could pull a new card every day, have it at your desk, make it part of your morning routine, and it's just a way to get yourself motivated, excited, and positive about the work you do, because oftentimes you question yourself. I do it all the time. Even though I have several years of experience, it's inevitable that you will question yourself and think that you might not know what you're doing, but you do know what you're doing. So take a chance to check out my website, peakpublishing.com/shop, to take a look at the cards, see what they're all about, and purchase your copy today.
Thank you for listening to the Editor's Half Hour. This podcast is your go-to resource for editorial trends, opening the discussion for new ideas through the real-life stories of editors. For more information about Nadia Jaja Pupa and her business, visit peakpublishing.com. That's PIQUE publishing.com. And remember to subscribe and follow the Editor's Half Hour wherever you get your podcasts.